Welcome to episode 478 of the GroomPod, recorded on April 12th, 2025. I'm Susie the Groomer, and as always, I am joined by my partner in crime, that is podner in crime, Barbara Bird. Today, we're delving into the world of skin health and ingredient integrity. If you spent any time in the equine world, with both Barbara and I have, you probably know today's guest very well. But his mission has expanded far from the barn. We are thrilled to welcome Vince Polentes, the co-founder of Coat Defense. Vince, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about, everyone, remember to support our sponsors, Best Shot Show Season, Groomer, Stasco, and Precision Sharp. All right. Vince, tell us about how you got started with Coat Defense. I know in this area, I'm in the Northwest, and as far as the equine world, we deal with scratches, rain rot, and thrush like 9-10 months out of the year. It's kind of sad. That's my parrot. If you guys are hearing that in the background, that is my parrot. Just ignore that. Good. Okay. All right. Anyway, so many people are really familiar with your products here, but how did you get started?
Well, we were just kind of living a life. We had 3 young children, and my wife wound up, Sandy, getting ill. She had no energy. She got out of bed. I'm running around. I was in the logistics software world, responsible for sales in the U.S. for a small software company. And she just went to doctor after doctor, 2, who said, your problem is all in your head. You should be on these antidepressants. And, we're just like, okay, we'll try it. And she called me one day. I forget what town I was in. We lived in the DC area, raised our kids there. And she said, I'm crawling out of my skin. I think I want to get out of here. I'm freaking out. I said, drop those pills down the toilet and flush them. I want to hear it because this isn't healthy for anybody. And you've got 3 young kids. They're mine too. Let's figure it out. Her next doctor appointment was with a holistic guy who was a wellness doctor. I came along because she was not making a whole lot of sense and maybe not processing as quickly as normal. She's a pretty bright girl. But he said, I don't know what's wrong with you, but we're going to test everything. And while the tests are coming back, and we'll figure it out. But while the tests are getting done, we're going to make you feel better. And he said, you got to detox. The first thing is eat organic food. Well, 23 years ago, that made sense. I got it. The second thing was take infrared saunas because you can only poop or sweat out toxins, and infrared's a good way. So my dad gave me a hand. We built an infrared sauna in our home. And the third thing is what kind of knocked us for a loop. He said, don't put anything on your skin. They're just, and it kind of taught us how to read labels. He said, look, this word fragrance is just a catchword for 3,000 different petrochemicals. And these things act as hormone mimickers. They act as endocrine system disruptors. And, they're just in everything, and mostly women in skincare, things you put on your skin. So we got a little smarter then, but it kind of woke us up. Sandy was reading labels incessantly and found herself a shampoo and a soap that seemed to have, no documented chemicals in it, and couldn't find a deodorant. So I remember having like this slime under my armpits when I was in high school from some sort of speed stick, and putting my mom's deodorant powder on top of it so I wouldn't feel so yucky. But I made a deodorant powder with some simple ingredients. No talc. Obviously, we had to stay away from that. The lawsuits were coming out about Johnson and Johnson and talc creating ovarian cancer. So I came up with a very simple formula of organic cornstarch, some essential oils that I played around with just for fragrance, not a lot of it, and a little baking soda. And it turned out to work. And I had to
An
play with it.
arrowroot.
Uh,
Arrowroot.
That came a little later. Yeah,
Yeah.
we played with it. We're using it on our own, and then we found a manufacturer to go into the human skincare, who was like the cleanest manufacturer we've found. And we went all over the country. I've traveled a lot, and we visited 8 or 9 different manufacturers that said they made clean things. And we found a little one who had a powder. So we followed their ingredients. We kind of merged and came up with our own. But that's when we integrated both arrowroot um, to keep the slipperiness that the talc would
Yeah.
offer in a normal powder. But the bentonite clay was a big one that we've added on top of that, and it really did a lot of drawing. Although it wasn't to stop you from sweating, it would dry you. A lot of women used it in between where their flesh folds over, and it gets
That's
kind
a
of,
nice way of putting it.
yeah, in the folds, yeah. So we had a human skincare. We had, face moisturizers that had enzymes from rare Swiss apples that didn't turn brown when you cut them for a week. Like we had really good ingredients, and it was all very crunchy granola level. We won't put things on our skin. So we started 22 years ago playing around with that. And, one day after we started the company, that was closer to maybe 12, 10, well, 10 years ago, we got a call from a horse person. And she said, "Hey, um, can you make this powder in larger containers?" And we said, "Well, why?"
Why?
She said, "It made the rain rot fall off my mare." And we're like, "Okay, start from the scratch. What's rain rot? And are you talking about a female horse or the guy who runs your city?" But so that's kind of how we started. And I we lived in Northern Virginia, and I went down, on my way to Costco. I stopped. There's a horse training area, and I went in. I said, "Hey, you don't know me. I'm a stranger, but I brought you something because I'm doing an investigation. This crazy girl from California says this makes rain rot fall off. Can you tell me if she's crazy or if she's real?" And we got a text back 4 hours later from, "Hi, I'm Caitlin White. I'm the head groom at Ann Louise Horse Training, and we love your powder. It's removed all fungus from all horses that we put it on." And they may have boarded and had lesson horses, maybe 30 horses. Maybe they had 6 or 8 with fungus at that time. It was what is this? April? Yeah, it was this time
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
year. It was springtime, this time of year, 10 years ago. And I just went and started hanging out there. Like, yeah, well, I can get you more. And they wound up giving our 11-year-old lessons on the horses in exchange for powder. So it was like we had a little barter system going. But the big thing was I was learning more about, the parts of a horse. And, I remember one day I was pointing, I was like, "What are those white splotches doing on those horses' ankles?" "Don't pull them ankles," she would say. "You're going to be big and you're embarrassing us. Those are fetlocks and these are pasterns." And like, "Get it down." I was like, "Okay, okay. What are these white splotches doing on the pastern and fetlocks of your horses?" She said, "That's your powder with water. We're putting on scratches." I was like, "Tell me about scratches." She walked through, and I said, "How's it working?" She's like, "It's drawing them out really nice." I said, "I can figure this out." So I went away for 3 weeks and made a paste for horses called Trouble Spot Drying Paste. And it looks like clay peanut butter. And
Yeah.
it
Clay.
you slap it
Yep.
on, and it turns into a mask, is what it turns into. And it's got all natural ingredients that'll turn white in about 10 minutes. And it's amazing because this draws everything out, the bentonite clay in it, and it becomes a scab. So Unlike,
So,
in
so a
horses,
lot of you,
one of the issues in horses is, you know, their wounds don't heal, and they have an immune system that where the flesh granulates and grows up to meet where the skin was, where the new skin's supposed to be in about 12 days. And if there's no new skin there, it just grows through, and they call it proud flesh. So that's going on everywhere because most of the wound care this day is neosporin type petroleum jelly or lanolin based antibiotics is really what it is. It's antibacterial stuff. But when it's wet, even with honey, it doesn't work well. The wounds don't heal. Scabs can't form
Barbara?
on that. So that's how we figured out how to get into
okay.
the horse business.
Barbara,
So
you had a question
I was going to
or
say,
comment?
so it seems that your formulation was largely intuitive.
Yeah, we had
Well,
input from
some
a human.
basic, that's how I
Yeah.
developed the aromatherapy products that I eventually sold to show season. It was, like I did go through a schooling, but my putting things together, it was just really kind of an intuitive trusting myself to
Hmm.
identify what I thought was going to work, and it either worked or didn't. And those that did, I got a lot of good feedback about. I had the main one that I made was called Mellow Pet, and it was a calmative. And a lot of people are still coming up to me at Atlanta and saying, "Oh man, do you have any, Mellow Pet?" I said, "No, check with Show Season, they got it." And I'm still using that stuff. It's cool. Um, so
Let me guess, lavender. No.
No, no. Well,
What
I
is in
did.
it?
I did use some lavender in it. It
Mhm.
was, but I no longer support lavender. And
No.
no, the reason that I don't support lavender, I no longer support a lot of essential oils because the essential oil stream has just decayed, and there's a lot of essential oils are showing up as allergens for people, and
Mm.
it's only a matter of time before they are identified for dogs, but it's only because there's no system to identifying canine allergens. There is in Europe a system where all for human products where they can report adverse events. And all doctors and everything have to feed adverse events into this single central file. And so the scientists have data to go on. And from there, they pick out essential oils to patch test and do a rigorous scientific method testing of them to determine if they're allergenic. And
Mhm.
they now have identified several essential oils, including lavender, that in itself, not just its components, but in itself, it is an allergen identified by the EU on their reporting system. And so, what that means is that if there is a certain total amount of a identified allergen, they need to put it on the label so the consumer can see there's lavender in it. Oh, and it's linalool is a component of lavender that in itself is an allergen, and then linyl acetate is another component, and together they make up the largest part of the lavender, and it creates symbiotically creates and that a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts, and
Interesting.
the lavender itself has become an allergen. Well, and this has happened because of the mass marketing of essential oils by the multi-level marketing companies that have made every housewife into an aromatherapist. You
Right,
know,
right,
and
right.
and it's and so another side effect of that, of the huge expansion of the marketplace, has been mixing in, extending oils by mixing in other than their true oil, more
Mhm.
vegetable oil, more of their one of their cheaper components or whatever. So you have a lot of contaminated essential oils on the marketplace, and there's no way that they can police every little or even big lavender farms in the world.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
and the whole, it's very difficult to truly manage agriculture.
Well, it's very interesting because lavender is one of those things that was off our list very early. Um,
Yeah.
because in the horse world, there's two governing bodies on the English circuit, which is what we got introduced to first. The eventers, we've kind of followed around in the beginning, but you couldn't be USEF or FEI compliant, which is an international body, if you had lavender in your products of any amount, because
Wow.
it was looked as a sedative. You know, they they don't want their horses to have
Sedated.
anything, even on their skin, that could be a calming agent or considered a calming agent. So it was really dangerous for these competitors to have something that was non-compliant because
That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it does
So
work.
did your daughter go into eventing? Heaven forbid.
Well, that's kind of the way this barn that happened to be on the road from my house to Costco, they were training on eventing, but some people have it in their blood, and I think she didn't.
I do.
Oh, you
Yep,
do.
I
Like I
get
would
it.
say, hey, let's go feed Rebel. I got some carrots, and she'd be like, nah, that's not. Like she never cleaned a stall and probably won't. But I was okay with that because we were sponsoring these professional athletes, and eventing is a kind of a crazy sport. It has show jumping, which makes sense, and then it has dressage, which is kind of a control thing, and then you have this other part called cross country, and no offense to any eventers, but it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you jump over concrete walls, and if you miss the jump, I've seen people do full rotationals where the horse falls
The
on them.
horse
Now they
lands
have the
on top of
airbags.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh,
yeah.
ugh. I
And
love
Christopher,
eventing myself.
I do too. It's the most exciting part. But when you're
Yep.
talking about your baby girl, sometimes you think, why don't you try barrel racing? Not that
I
that's
did
less
barrel racing.
safer,
I
but
did
don't
barrel
run a
racing.
gun, baby.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it was just a great experience. I got to hang out there and, get feedback and learn more about what's going on with the horse's skin and how they were using the products because I was not from their world. And, we really had this mentality of getting feedback right away before we would release a product. And one of our criteria was would we put it on our bodies because that's our standard in terms of petrochemical fragrances. We don't put any junk that kind of the cleanest organic products wouldn't have in them don't go in our product. We don't just add something because we hope it works. We go to the environmental working group, we check out what the cancer issues could be, you know, every ingredient we do, in fact, we give to the environmental working group. It's a nonprofit in DC,
I
and they
know that.
test.
I
Okay,
know.
you don't
I
have
know.
to. Yeah. All right. So I'm making Barbara have convulsions. But anyway,
Yeah.
we had a nice run in the horse market. We still are one of the leading suppliers, but there's 9 million horses and they're owned by 1 million people. And late 2019, we started getting our horse folks who, had given us all these different uses for the powder, for the paste, for the shampoo, what they're using it for. And all of a sudden, we started seeing pictures of their dogs. And we were told that this cured my dog's allergies. And we're scratching my head. No, I need to understand this. And no, you need a dog product. You need a dog product. We had a distributor called Bradley Caldwell, really great company in the Northeast that helped us find a lot of independent, in a lot of cases, Amish feed stores that use the products on their own horses. And but anyway, they were used. All the salespeople didn't have horses; they had dogs. They were all using these products on their dogs and on themselves. So we got enough documentation to say people love it for their dogs, and those are real spots. But we couldn't really explain it. We started with a dog label in 2020, and it's 5 times our horse business. It's just people are pulling us in. They're saying it's doing this, it's doing this, it's doing this. I mean, the yeastiest dogs in the world are these English bulldogs, and they're so yeasty that they grow interdigital cysts. They're like, I don't know if you've ever seen those puffy, clear
I've seen it in a digital cyst.
welts,
I think
but
we
they're
all
just,
groomers have.
it's
Yeah,
all fungus. It's all
yeah.
fungus, and this stuff sucks it out in 3 days. And these are dogs scheduled for surgeries. So we're finding more and more that um, our customers who were on Apoquel no longer are on Apoquel. Not that we're against drugs, but we we handle a big side effect of antibiotics, and I know um, they're a fact of life. They're overprescribed, but when you're dealing with a skin biome that has bacteria and fungus on it, and there's a kind of an equilibrium going on, and all of a sudden you interrupt that equilibrium by killing all the bacteria that feed on the yeast or fungus, the
Right.
population explodes. And that's what's going on with most of the dogs that are itching today.
That's interesting. Does it work the other way around? If you kill the fungus, does the bacteria expand?
That's Cliff's perspective. Yeah, yeah.
That's Dr.
Most,
Cliff's.
most, yeah, Dr. Cliff.
Yeah.
Most vets will tell you that, but I don't. I when you bring something that kills both, it's kind of
Yeah.
cool because
Well, let me share
no
with
time
our
to get out of
listeners.
bounds.
First of all, let me tell you why I freaked out. I do not support the working group, and it's
Okay.
because of my strict science disposition. And there's a lot of scientists that think that EWG is, I don't
Sold
know.
out.
Yeah,
Sold out.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and not they're taking small, they're misinforming by means of exaggeration, and they don't weigh the evidence according to the source, so that it all like some of their findings are based on pseudoscience and studies that shouldn't be acknowledged. and I will dig into my files. I don't want to go into it in depth, but I just don't. It's the easiest and most informative place where you can just go to find out the safety of ingredients, but it's not telling you the right things. And I will send you my What's Wrong with EWG material just so that you can look at it. And I'm not trying to change your mind, but you
Oh
might want to
no,
know what the other side says.
we don't introduce new ingredients very often, but 22 years ago it was available, and they did seem to be pretty straightforward. Lately,
Listen,
I question them because they'll produce a review about The Honest Company, for example.
yeah,
Um, Jessica Alba's supposedly, everything's greenwashed. It has, and they go to the EWG and say, "Hey, have you tested this crap with this crap with this crap with this crap?" And they'll give them some money to white out their warning about what they would normally say. So I think it's probably a fluid organization, and what you're saying
yeah.
could be very true right now.
I
But in the
I
beginning, we counted on them.
I used them in the beginning too,
Mhm.
but I because I was following the beauty brains and some of
Right?
the scientists. The beauty brains has always been a trusted source for me,
Hmm.
and they're they led me to voices that were saying different than EWG and helped me to understand that they were using poor science and they were not scientifically 100%. And there are lots of science minded people that have spoken out about EWG, and it remains a fabulous produced source. It just looks so good, and I go nuts when another shampoo comes on and they've used it and then they publish it in their website like, oh God, no. What do I do? Like, I'm just a little nay
Little
nay.
leery. Yeah, I became leery when I saw that too.
I'm just very wary of it, and I'll send you the information just so that you have it
Good.
and you
Thank
can
you.
take a look at it. And the information is my counter information is dated, and that's because one of the uh, one of the websites that I used that had guest writers and everything on ingredients, on cosmetic ingredients. I can't remember. It was like, I'm going to make it up, but it was sort of like Cosmetics Truth.
Hmm.
It was an alternative voice. They suddenly disappeared, which means that someone got stirred up and put some kind of
Like all the doctors who cure cancer, they got
yeah,
disappeared.
yeah. I
Interesting.
mean, and I mean, a lot of ingredients are labeled as causing cancer when there's really no direct science to
Mhm.
back that up in EWG. That's one of the things that I just like balked at, and and that was before 2010. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I've probably been a naysayer since at least 2010. But
Hmm.
anyway, I just wanted to explain to you that that's why I was cringing so bad. Um,
Okay,
but
that's fair. But
my own experience, to tell the audience, my own experience with coat defense is I love the powder, And I have two yeasty, one very serious and one moderate Maltese. And my little girl just gets a third of her body covered with yeast growth. And I took a look. I didn't see it on her feet, but I took a look with the power, the air plus light,
The Pet neck dryer.
my pet neck dryer. I took it off my neck and I use it as a hand thing, and it's got like a light on the front, and so you blow the hair away from the skin and you see the skin, boom, right there. It's the best skin investigator tool I've ever had, and I think every vet should have one, you know, because it really lights up the yeast and and brushes all the hair away from the area. You can really see how bad it is. I went backwards. I blew into her toenails and saw the yeast around her toenails and there. And she does clean her feet a lot. She takes, whether she's got anything going or not, she cleans her feet. It's just something this dog does. But she was licking her feet more, and I noticed that. And on her body, remember the other day I told you that I had I took the video that I sent you on about
Mhm.
one side of her body. That was pretty extensive. That was at least 20% of that area had some kind of yeast problem. And after our conversation, I bathed her in the shampoo, and then I powdered all those areas. And the areas that had surprised me on my video were her nipples. So those are like out of sight, but I was feeling something under there. So I stood her up and took the light and blow dryer and looked, and her upper nipples were just caked with yeast, and all of her nipples had some yeast growth going on there. I powdered that down real good. Her
Mhm.
vulva and her fruit was had spots of that yeast, and I powdered that real well. The next day, everything was clear except the upper ones where there was a lot of hair around them. So I that was the second time I had an overnight result from coat defense powder, and I really think it's a good product. And you were right. I bathed her with your shampoo without a conditioner, Susie. I was just using any other conditioner on her because I couldn't not use it. Well, I didn't use it, and her coat came out fine. So,
And that's the your main cleansing agent in the shampoo. Is that a saponified type of a
yeah,
product?
yeah, it is a saponified product, and I expected it to be harsh. I expected it to be very alkaline, and I did a very professional pH test on it, and it tested 5.6, which is moderately acidic. So it was just the opposite. So it's closing the hair cuticle, not opening it. And I didn't expect that. And but I kind of liked it. So now, Vince, if you're going to sell that shampoo to groomers, you're going to need larger quantity. I mean, groomers like to buy by the gallon.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I've been going like this about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know it's a 9 ounce bottle of shampoo, but
Ouch.
what people don't realize in the beginning is that it makes half a gallon. just that 9 ounce bottle. It's pretty thick.
So it should
So
be diluted before you use it.
you don't have to. I mean, you can use a little. We use it on our hair, and we just know it doesn't take much. I mean, we used to give our kids bubble baths and that stuff. It's real thick. It's aloe based, so it kind of, even if your dog or your horse is aggravated, it really does. It pulls welts out of horses. I've seen it. Not welts, but hives. Welt would be a big word for a hive, but it really does reduce the aggravation of inflamed skin. The question is,
Yeah.
I know grooms are used to buying stuff by the gallon, and it may be that it doesn't work out, but I think there's enough of them right now that are saying we sell this as an upscale, like just like doing a medicated shampoo. This is an extra service
Yeah.
we're charging for, and we'll respond to the market. We're not here to not listen to our customers. I mean, we'll make it in bigger containers. Um, we have a challenge, keep it in stock in the spring. We're making it as fast as we can, and we think we got this spring and summer covered. But we're growing, so we've got it. We're figuring things out. What what we talk to groomers about though is the whole issue of, if you knew you can stop these dogs from being in this endless cycle of medicated shampoos, and you know you ever see a Shih Tzu with a gooky golden paw, like, could you just, if you could end it for your customers, do you care? Like, is it something you would do? And 90% of them say yes, like they would. But I know there's a lot of dancing that we got to do. We don't want to make enemies out of the vets, but what they're doing at the vet's office with these yeasty and allergic dogs isn't helping. It's just a cycle.
Right.
And I'm
You're
not
right.
saying they're evil, and I'm not saying they're not intelligent. I'm just saying that our system kind of breeds this. And we've talked to people who have been doing this for years, and I mean, look at our reviews. It's incredible. Or look, or just if you're ever on Facebook, if you see an ad for us, just look at what people say underneath it. They're just awestruck. You were
Well,
surprised, Barbara, right?
I was very surprised. Well, I actually went to the vet before I tried this. I went to
Mhm,
the vet with both dogs, and it was
mhm.
after I had tried a number of things on my own. I tried Dead Sea salt bath, which I made. I made a clay mask with special, I don't know, a number of expensive ingredients. The jar that I made cost me $90. The
Oh,
vet, I took them to the vet, and that didn't work, and nothing worked. And so I went to the vet, and it cost me $700. And I got Apoquel and um,
Cytopoint?
antibiotic, an
Oh, antibiotic.
antibiotic,
Yeah,
and
that's the first step.
antibiotic. And like, I mean, I shuddered. I didn't want to do the antibiotic, but I just said, I'm here at the vet. I, I might as well do what she says. So I
Yeah.
did that, and then it cleared up. The yeast cleared up on both of them, and uh, and then shortly after it cleared up, it started happening again. And so I refilled this prescription, and that cost me 100 and some bucks. And I just said, "Fuck this."
Hmm. Hmm.
Excuse me, but that's what I said.
Hmm.
This, like that, I this is not happening. This is
right?
not, this is what she's been trained to do for this. And because it is effective in the first place, people just keep refilling their prescriptions and doing it over and over again.
Auto
And she's,
ship. You're on auto ship.
you know, yeah, auto ship. And I said, I'm not going to do that because I already have a real concern about antibiotics and what's happening in our industries in vet and grooming. And and the medicated shampoo, she sold me a bottle of medicated shampoo that freaked me out because not only was it chlorhexidine, but it was say it,
Ketoconazole.
ketoconazole. Also, and a third thing, so it was like an atom bomb antimicrobial shampoo, and I was supposed to bathe her 3 times a week in it.
Do you
Oh,
know what
I
the
just couldn't
environmental work?
stand it.
Do you know the environmental working group labels that chlorhexidine as a skin allergen? Did you know that?
Ah, well, there you go.
There you go. Take it with a grain of salt.
Well,
So I
It's
it's
black and
bad.
white.
It's
It's
bad.
black and
I
white.
mean, I used it once on her, and it went in the back of the cupboard. Like no, 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 and it's just like I'm not going to do that to my dogs,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't do it to anybody else's dog either. And so people come in and they bring those bottles with them, and what do you do? And my vet said bathe her with this, and so they're going to do it or they're not. I actually was trained in a kennel where the guy said what you do is you pour a little bit down the drain and then you give them the bottle back and say, yeah, she got a bath.
You know,
But I would never do that. I mean, I always would say, well, I always would argue, or I would, present an alternate reality to my customers, but my alternate reality doesn't have the credibility that the vet's alternate reality has. What can you go? You cannot put a groomer, even a self taught groomer, or even a schooled groomer. You can't put them up against a vet because of just the credentials.
mhm, mhm.
So I've
You
got
know,
a Havanese that has exactly what you're saying with the yucky paws and everywhere the skin folds and all that.
uh,
So how would you recommend I use your product to deal with that? Not the
well,
shampoo, but the powders, because this owner will probably not do the bathing in what we want, but they would definitely be compliant with the powder.
will they
And
stop using chlorhexidine?
they're not. We're not
Okay.
using anything but hypoallergenic stuff on the dog.
Okay.
And
Then
they have
you
tried,
would rub it
yeah.
down to the skin. You'd put it in between their paws. These are new format we have. Like new groomers can get a 6 pack of these 4.2 ounces to leave with their
Cool.
customers for $15 and get a bigger
Yeah.
one for in the shop. And you
Oh,
just,
that's good.
yeah,
Yeah, I want that. I need to order that right
yeah,
away.
this is,
That's great.
you can start with 6 or 12 of these or whatever you want. We're not here to make stuff grow dust. But once people try this, they like to keep some in the shop. And yeah, we even have a dog version of this paste that actually you put it on, and 3 days later you rinse it off, and there's the hot spot is new skin. It's just that good. So we have a hot spot. We encourage groomers to try one of everything, like a big powder, a 9 ounce powder, a shampoo. See if you like it. the paste for hot spots, and we also have a balm, which is we used to sell it to humans for psoriasis and eczema symptoms. Cuts the itch and really deep moisturizing. A lot of propolis in it. But those are our four dog
Cool.
products. Yeah.
So
So yeah, I would recommend it. And if there's a way you can solve the problem for these people, I'm telling you, they're very grateful. Our customers are forever customers. And if you're a dog groomer, I'm sure your customers are that way because they know you care. Um, and I'm not trying to create an uprising here. I just want these dogs to feel more comfortable. Because after you hear about 1,000 stories of, thank God it arrived yesterday and it was the first full night of sleep we had for 4 months. And they can't make this stuff up. I'm not making it up. I'm like reading this and I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't even make this for dogs. They made it for people. So
It worked great on my horse's rain rot. She only had a little bit, but it took it away so quickly. I just used the powder.
cool.
And it just disappeared.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's the only experience I have with it. But I'm so thinking about this dog that they're just having such a terrible time. And I think it would be a good step for them. They're very crunchy granola as it is. So, this would be a way to help them help their dog. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I think much as we grew pretty quick in the horse business by only dealing with neighborhood. I don't know if you remember this guy, Howard Schultz. He started Starbucks.
Yeah, I'm from Seattle.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I live in Seattle. So, yeah,
yeah,
we know
yeah.
him well.
I used to be in the online ordering business. And yeah, they invited me to come present to them to help their research department on a Monday morning, and I was in DC. That's the way they do it. These big companies, they try to like get the little guys to have to travel on Sunday. It just helps. It helps negotiations, I guess. But anyway, no, I liked his book, and he he was talking about his history as a espresso machine salesman, and he got this itch to start opening coffee shops where people could communicate with each other based on his visit to Italy. And every street corner there's a place, and I guess he realized that humans need a third place. If they're at work, they go home. A place in between is their third place, and whether it's a coffee shop or a bar or you know
pub,
strip
yeah.
joint, but the third place. And in a lot of cases, people who live on farms, the feed stores, there's their second place. So we think the groomers are, they're close enough to the customers, they're trusted. We believe that, they can help us help more people. So we've gone through a lot of trouble back in the feed store days with making sure that Amazon isn't undercutting our prices or their prices. So we fired our distributors, we control our pricing on Amazon, and we make sure that the price we tell you we sell it for is a reasonable price that they can make a margin on. Because what happens to the little guys and everything in this world is they get squeezed. It's like Amazon's undercutting the price they can buy this at. No, thank you.
I
That's not the way
know.
we're going to build our company. You know, we really count on people connecting with their customers. So we're looking for advice.
So cool. So
Make the shampoo in a bigger container is
yeah, I was
the
gonna.
number one piece of input we got so far.
Well, even if you started with a half gallon, or even yeah, a half gallon would work. So
So you
because
would
Get
that
not
the
pay,
dilution
sometimes
rate.
sometimes
you don't mind
the
paying shipping for all that water.
well, but they're paying shipping for all that water right now. Like God.
Yeah. We have
So
to change the world, Barbara. We're changing the
yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah. That's why I love you. That's why you're here. So, so I was going to say that I think you've already caught on because you're changing the lid on the powder. But my experience with the powder is that the holes are too large in these little powder containers that I have. So
Mhm.
I have a special little brush and a little dustpan that's about the size of the palm of my hand, and I can get the because I'm losing a whole serving's worth,
See,
you know.
see, I put it in my hand, I throw it under my arms, and if I drop some on the floor, I put my feet over it because it's good for your feet. You won't get athlete's foot if you put it on your
Well, I
toes.
don't get athlete's fit, but I do have a skin fold situation, and I used the dog stuff on myself, and it fixed it. And then I bought the people stuff. So I've got the people stuff going, and
Okay.
I just slapped some on there, and the next day were much better. But I haven't. This is just something that popped up since I moved from Arizona to South Carolina. I never had this, but it can get here and there, and anywhere
Yeah.
the skin folds over, you can get this. And if you don't pay attention to it, it gets nasty. And it's embarrassing to me because it smells, and your powder just takes care of it. So I highly recommend the people powder for fat girls and anybody else
Well,
that
it's just a part of life. I mean, think about all those old people who are bedbound and getting bed sores or in diapers. It's that acid that sits on their skin and makes it thinner than it needs to be. Your skin's already getting old but
tell me.
you put something that's a little bit slightly alkaline against their skin, and it won't keep them dry forever, but it'll keep their skin from bursting. Really helps.
What's on the horizon for you guys? What's coming up for the future? Any exciting new changes or different products or just mainly focusing on the dogs?
Well, the dogs are big, and I mean, we're not a huge company. I would say we're right at the verge of 10 million is what we did last year. Um, it's a lot of powder, but we're going to stay relevant with our horse people, get out there. We're going to meet a lot of groomers this year. It's our mission, but eventually we're probably going to be doing more human things, but not just because it doesn't have chemicals in. We're going to go after humans with cause and effect. This wound care I'm talking about, it's unbelievable for any wounds, dog, human, horse. Um, I think we're going to, by the end of the year, start to advertise the human stuff again, and but it will be cause and effect. It will be acne, dandruff, and the deodorant. Those are probably the three biggest, and the wound care. We're talking to some folks who are connected to Alice Walton, and she's got this dream of like coming up with a completely different healthcare system. It's very difficult when you're competing with the big guys, and they're trying to, you can't say kills yeast, kills bacteria on Amazon because then they'll take your listing down and say, give us your EPA certification. You're making
Right.
Yeah, that's
pesticide
right.
claims. And then if we say that we're taking care of a condition that's a human condition, like athlete's foot, for example, the FDA comes in and says, "Hey, you're
It's not a
you're an
medicine. Yeah.
illegal drug. You're not registered with the FDA." So we've got these big chemical companies, and I don't know if things will change. I used to think things were going to change, but I just want to help people with their problems. That's all.
So tell us about your offer.
Well, um, for groomers, we sell products at a wholesale rate, and we sell things at 70% of what our prices on our website are and our manufacturer's list price. And we also sell these 4.2s as a leave behind. We think you'll like it. We put a discount code in today if you'd like to just try one and don't want to get a wholesale package. And you can try anything on the website for 15% off. All you have to do is remember the name of this podcast and type it into the discount code. Go to coatdefense.com.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being on the
Thank you.
show. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks
and your
for having
kindness
us.
at
We
giving
really
our
appreciate
listeners
what
stuff.
you're doing. And Barbara, thank you
Excellent.
for trying it on your precious Maltese. Kids,
Well,
All right.
Malteses.
yeah, whatever. Those guys.
The Maltesers. All right. Well, thanks for listening to our show and now watching our show. I hope you're enjoying this new format, everyone. And happy grooming. See you next time on the GroomPod. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye there. Take care of yourselves because we love you.